Ham, son of Noah. According to the scriptures, it's generally believed that Ham's descendants settled Africa. Therefore, I believe Ham is haplogroup A and B. Bears of haplogroup A have been found in southern Africa's hunter-gatherer inhabited areas, especially among the San people. In addition, the most basal mitochondrial DNA, LO, lineages are also largely restricted to the San. However, the A lineages in southern Africa are subclades of A lineages found in other parts of Africa, suggesting that A sub-haplogroups arrived in southern Africa from elsewhere. The two most basal lineages of haplogroup A, A0 and A1, have been detected in West Africa, Northwest Africa, and Central Africa. Kroenke et al. 2011 suggests that these lineages may have emerged somewhere in between Central and Northwest Africa. Scornozzi et al. 2012 also support the hypothesis of an origin in the northwestern quadrant of the African continent for A1b haplogroup. Haplogroup A1b1b2 has been found among ancient fossils excavated at Belto Bay of KwaZulu-Natal, South Africa, which have been dated to around 2194 through 1831 BP. By the definition of haplogroup A as non-BT, it is also completely restricted to Africa, though a very small handful of bears have been reported in Europe and Western Asia. The clade achieves its highest frequency among the Bushman hunter-gatherer populations of southern Africa, followed closely by many Nilotic groups in eastern Africa. However, haplogroup A's oldest subclades are exclusively found in central northwestern Africa, where it is believed to have originated. Haplogroup A is found at low to moderate frequencies in the Horn of Africa. The clade is observed at highest frequencies among the 41% of a sample of the Beta Israel, occurring among 41% of one sample from this population. Elsewhere in the region, haplogroup A has also been reported in 14.6% of the Amhara sample, 10.3% of the Oromo sample, and 13.6% of another sample from Ethiopia. In the Upper Nile, haplogroup A3B2-M13 is common among southern Sudanese at 53%, especially the Dinka Sudanese at 61.5%. Haplogroup A3B2-M13 also has been observed in another sample of the southern Sudanese population at a frequency of 45%. Further down around the Nile Valley, the subclade A3B2 has also been observed at very low frequencies in a sample of Egyptian males at 3%. One 2005 study has found haplogroup A sample of various Khoisan-speaking tribes with frequencies ranging from 10% to 70%. This particular haplogroup was not found in a sample of the Hadza from Tanzania, a population somewhat proposed as remnant of a late Stone Age Khoisan population. In Asia, haplogroup A has been observed at low frequencies in Asia Minor, which is Turkey, and the Middle East among Aegean Turks, Palestinians, Jordanians, and Yemenis. A3A2 A-M13 has been observed at very low frequencies in some Mediterranean islands. Without testing for any subclade, haplogroup A has been found in a sample of Greeks from Mytilene, Aegean island of Lesbos, and in samples of Portuguese from southern Portugal, central Portugal, and Madeira. The authors of one study have reported finding what appears to be haplogroup A in 3.1% of a sample of Cretans. The clade A1b1b contains the most populous branches of haplogroup A and is mainly found in eastern and southern Africa. The subclade A1b1b2b is primarily distributed among Nilotic populations in East Africa and northern Cameroon. It is different from the A subclades that are found in the Khoisan samples and only remotely related to them. It is actually only one of many subclades within haplogroup A. This finding suggests an ancient divergence. In Sudan, haplogroup A-M13 has been found in 52.8% of southern Sudanese, 46.4% of the Nuba of central Sudan, 27.8% of western Sudanese, 12.5% of local Hausa people, 2.3% of northern Sudanese. In Ethiopia, one study has reported finding haplogroup A-M13 in 14.6% of a sample of Amhara and 10.3% of a sample of Oromo. Haplogroup A-M13 also has been observed occasionally outside of Central and Eastern Africa as the Aegean region of Turkey, 6.7%, Yemenite Jews at 5%, Egypt at 2.7%, Palestinian Arabs at 1.4%, Sardinia at 1.3%, the capital of Jordan, Amman, at 1%, and Oman at 0.8%. Haplogroup A-M13 has been found among 3 Neolithic period fossils excavated from the Kadrutika site in Sudan. Haplogroup B is common in parts of Africa, especially the tropical forests of West Central Africa. It was the ancestral haplogroup of not only modern pygmies like the Baka and Mbatwi, but also the Hadza from Tanzania, who often have been considered in large part because of some typological features of their language to be a remnant of Khoisan people in East Africa. According to one study of the Y-DNA of populations in Sudan, haplogroup B-M60 is found in approximately 30% of southern Sudanese, 16% of local Hausa people, 14% of the Nuba of central Sudan, 3.7% of northern Sudanese, but only among Copts and Nubians, and 2.2% of western Sudanese. According to another study, haplogroup B is found in approximately 15% of Sudanese males, including 12.5%. In Madagascar, haplogroup B-M60 has been found in approximately 9% of Malagasy males, including 6%. Family tree DNA shows a significant number of persons of haplogroup B-M60 claiming origins from the Arabian Peninsula, dominantly Saudi Arabia, but also in Kuwait, Bahrain, Yemen, Qatar, Iraq, United Arab Emirates, and Oman. In Hormozgan province in Iran, haplogroup B-M60 has been found in 8.2% of a sample of 49 Kashmir people and in 2.3% of a sample of 131 Bendari people. In Afghanistan, haplogroup B-M60 has been found in 5.1% of a sample of Huzarus males. Haplogroup B-M182 has been found in 6% of the sample of Mbatwi males from the Democratic Republic of the Congo, 6% of Bakola males from southern Cameroon, 6% of a sample of Dama males from Namibia, and 3% of a sample of Baika males from Central Africa Republic. The vast majority of family tree DNA participants in haplogroup B-M60 test positive for B-M182, with 3/4 of those participants claiming countries of the Arabian Peninsula as their ancestral land of origin, attesting to its presence in that area also. Haplogroup B-M112 has been found mainly among pygmy populations in Central Africa, northern Khoisan populations in Southern Africa, and the Hadza in East Africa. Specifically, haplogroup B2B has been observed in 67% of a population of Baka from Central African Republic, 52% or 51% of a sample of Hadza from Tanzania, 48% of a sample of Baka from Central African Republic, 43% of a sample of Mbatwi from the Democratic Republic of the Congo, 31% of a sample of San from Namibia, 28% of a sample of the Northern Khoisan speaking peoples, 25% of a sample of Barunj from Tanzania, 14% of sample of Tutsi from Rwanda, 13% of a sample of Sinawi from Tanzania, 9% of a sample of Kong from Namibia, 5% of a sample of Tortur from Tanzania, 5% of a sample of Warak from Tanzania, 3% of a sample of Zulu from South Africa, 3% of a sample of Bakola from Southern Cameroon, 3% of a sample of Datong from Tanzania, 3% of a sample of Malagasy, 1.4% of a sample of Hutu from Rwanda, 1.4% of a sample from Qatar, and 1.3% of a sample from Saudi Arabia. The signature nilotic paternal marker haplogroup A3b2 was observed in 27% of the Maasai, 22% of the Ulur, and 11% of the Luyo. Haplogroup B is another characteristically nilotic paternal marker. It was found in 22% of the Luyo samples, 8% of the Maasai, and 50% of the Nuer people. The Y-DNA of populations in the Sudan region were studied with various local nilotic groups included for comparison. The signature nilotic A and B clades were the most common paternal lineages among the Nilo-Saharan speakers, except those inhabiting Western Sudan. There, a prominent North African influence is noted. Haplogroup A was observed among 62% of the Dinka, 53% of Shilluk, 46.4% of the Nuba, 33.3% of the Nuer, 31.3% of the Fur, and 18.8% of the Masalit. Haplogroup B was found in 50% of the Nuer, 26.7% of the Shilluk, 23% of Dinka, 14.3% of Nuba, 3.1% of Fur, and 3.1% of Masalit. According to the paper titled Y Chromosome Variation Among Sudanese Restricted Gene Flow Concordance with Language, Geography, and History, it reads, haplogroups A-M13 and B-M60 are present at high frequencies in Nilo-Saharan groups except Nubians with low frequencies and Afro-Asiatic groups, although no table frequency of B-M60 were found in Hausa 15.6% and Copts at 15.2%. And according to the paper titled New Binary Polymorphisms Reshape and Increase Resolution of the Human Y Chromosomal Haplogroup Tree, it reads, this subclade, one of the most basal of the entire Y chromosome tree, is also completely restricted to the African continent. Haplogroup A chromosomes are most frequent in Khoisan, Ethiopian, and Sudanese populations. Like haplogroup A, the B clade is almost entirely restricted to sub-Saharan Africa. B chromosomes are found at their highest frequency among pygmies, with some lineages being virtually restricted to these ethnic groups. And according to the paper titled Signatures of the Pre-Agricultural Peopling Processes in sub-Saharan Africa has revealed by phylogeography of early Y chromosome lineages. And it reads, the study of Y chromosome variation has helped reconstruct demographic events associating with the spread of language, agriculture, and pastoralism in sub-Saharan Africa, but little attention has been given to the early history of the continent. In order to overcome this lack of knowledge, we carried out a phylogeographic analysis of haplogroups A and B in a broad data set of sub-Saharan African populations. These two lineages were particularly suitable for branches of the Y chromosome genealogy. Their distribution is almost exclusively restricted to sub-Saharan Africa, where their frequencies peak at 65% in groups of foragers. The combined high-resolution single nucleotide polymorphism analysis with short tandem repeats variations of their subclades reveals strong geographic and population structure for both haplogroups. This has allowed us to identify significant lineages related to regional pre-agricultural demographics in different areas of sub-Saharan Africa. In addition, we observed signatures of relatively recent contact both among pygmies and between them, the Khoisan speakers, groups from southern Africa, thus contributing to the understanding of the complex evolutionary relationship among African hunter-gatherers. Haplogroup A is rarely found in North, West, and Central Africa, whereas it is more frequent in the eastern and southern parts of the continent. Rare in both northern and western Africa, the distribution of haplogroup B in the rest of the continent can be described by that of its two main subclades, B2A and B2B. The former appears to be associated with food-producing communities and populations in contact with them, as also previously observed, and it is present at low frequencies in all sub-Saharan areas. In contrast, B2B is mostly present in foraging communities in Eastern and Central Africa. The different geographic distributions of haplogroups A and B2B are mirrored at the population level. Little or no haplogroup A is present in pygmies and Eastern African Khoisan speakers, whereas B2B is commonly found in these populations. On the other hand, haplogroup A is more frequent than B among Southern African Khoisan speakers, less than 40%, with haplogroup B2B representing less than 16% of the Y chromosome types present in these populations. Of the A subclades, A1 is found only in Western and Central Africa, whereas A3B1 and A3B2 are Southern and Central/Eastern Africa specific, respectively. Haplogroup A2 is mostly represented by sub-Saharan samples, with only a few Central African haplotypes. Similarly, B2B1/B2B4A and B2B2 are geographically restricted to Southern and Eastern Africa, respectively, whereas B2B3, B2B4B, and B2B4 are specific to Central Africa, albeit with a few B2B4 sub-Saharan haplotypes. In fact, whereas B2B3, B2B4B, and B2B4 are almost exclusively found among Western pygmies, B2B and B2B1-B2B4A are found only in Eastern pygmies and sub-Saharan Khoisan speakers, respectively. Similarly, the majority of the A3B1 and A2 types are found among sub-Saharan Khoisan speakers, with haplogroup A2 also present in Western pygmies. Pygmies and sub-Saharan Khoisan speakers also share evolutionary closely related lineages within the B2B4 clade. We dated the eastern and western pygmy separation using the divergence between the B2B2 and B2B4B / B2B3 clades. These estimates span similar time intervals and suggest a separation time of 10,000 through 15,000 years ago, broadly overlapping with the generally more ancient estimates provided by mtDNA and autosomal data. In particular, the youngest date suggested by B2B2 versus B2B3 might indicate post-late glacial maximum. We identified evolutionary links between western pygmies and sand in both A and B clades, developing the initial findings presented in Wood et al. 2005. Haplogroup A2, found among sub-Saharan Khoisan speakers at 25 through 45%, was detected for the first time in the present work of non-interval frequency 5% among the Baka pygmies from Cameroon and Gabon. On the other hand, B2B4 was present at 6% through 7% among Khoisan speakers, but reached 45 through 67% in both Baka and Bainka pygmies. We dated the TMRCA among the Western Pygmy and San specific subclades of these two haplogroups to between 3,000 and 4,000 years ago. Haplogroup A in Western Africa is represented by the A1A lineage. The variation within this subclade dates back to 10.5 KYA and to 8 KYA, when only Western African haplotypes are considered, which is in agreement with the archaeological and linguistic evidence related to the peopling of this region. Haplogroup B2B4 chromosomes were present in the Mozambican samples, a lineage that is mainly shared with the Baka pygmies from Cameroon. This subclade A3B2 is present at high frequencies in East African populations, in particular among Nilo-Saharan speakers. Based on the analysis of this lineage in Uganda, proposed its association with the linguistic phylum, our estimates of A3B2 antiquity do not refute this hypothesis, as they are broadly in agreement with the interval date for the spread of Nilo-Saharan phylum, approximately between 12,000 and 18,000 years ago. To put it simply, Ham's descendants would be represented by haplogroups A and B. Haplogroup A and B is Paleo-African or True African. Ethnic groups with haplogroup A and B would be Hamites such as Pygmies, Khoisan, Nilo-Saharans, Nilotic people, Sudanese, Upper Egyptians, Coptics, and Ethiopians. And just to visualize the tree of haplogroups A and B, here is a paper titled Molecular Dissection of the Basal Clades in the Human Y Chromosome Phylogenetic Tree. And there, as you can see, haplogroups A and B. Those subclades would represent the descendants of Ham. Haplogroups A and B. Haplogroup A and B. Haplogroup A is the NRY macrohaplogroup, from which all modern paternal haplogroups descend. It is sparsely distributed in Africa, being concentrated among Khoisan populations in the southwest and Nilotic populations towards the northeast in the Nile Valley. Here is a distribution map of haplogroup A. As we can see, highest frequency is among Nilotic and Khoisan peoples, and it is highly distributed in the Sudan and in South Africa, but you can also find it in all parts of Africa at low frequencies. And here is a map of haplogroup B, which is also distributed across Africa, and you can find it in higher frequencies among the Pygmies, but it is evenly distributed all around the continent. But haplogroup A and B in ancient times was all across the continent, even in northern Africa, and haplogroup A and B seems to be the best choice for Ham, since it is a mostly African restricted haplogroup seen among the oldest African populations such as Nilots and Pygmies and Khoisanes, etc. Even in Western Africa, the oldest samples we find is haplogroup A and B. For that information, check out the paper titled Ancient West African Foragers in the Context of African Population History. That paper details haplogroups A and B being the oldest in Western Africa. Since Ham is haplogroup A and B in my model, haplogroup A and B is seen highest among Nilo-Saharan, Pygmies, and Khoisanes. Therefore, the actual language of Ham would be those languages. The African Pygmies are a group of ethnicities native to Central Africa, most of the Congo Basin, traditionally subsisting on a forager and hunter-gatherer lifestyle. They are divided into three roughly geographic groups, such as Western Pygmies, Eastern Pygmies, and Central and Southern Pygmies, with their respective languages. And just to give a slight description of who the Pygmy people are, the type of African Pygmies living in Central Africa shows the strongest adaptation to tropical rainforest conditions of all humans. Mbatuids belong to the shortest humans. The males hardly surplus 140 centimeters. Very short-legged, athletic. Noses are the widest in the world, often wider than the mouth. Features: overall infantile. Hairiness shorter than the savanna groups. Lips thicker. Skin fairer. Faces wide and peppercorn. Hair ranged from reddish blonde to black. The types diverge from others some 60,000 years ago and developed through hunter-gatherer lifestyles in the forest. East Mbatuids show the most pronounced features. Their stature is shorter, face wider, nasal root lower, and prognathy weaker than the Western Mbatuids. The similar Twa group shows stronger Congoid influence. Most Mbatuid tribes today suffer from war, discrimination, and loss of culture. The Khoisan languages, a group of African languages originally classified together by Joseph Greenberg. Khoisan languages share click cognates and do not belong to other African language families. And here is a tree of Khoisan languages and ethnic groups, the people who speak those different sub-branches of the language. Now to give a brief description of the Khoisan peoples. Special group, typical for the old agricultural population of southern Africa, with many unique features adapted to dry climate. Very ancient and distinct. Stature is rather short and body are lean. Women show steatopygia. The skin is yellowish light brown, often wrinkled, peppercorned hair common. Nose very wide. Eyes fold are frequent. The skull is long and low with little prognathism. Compared to the similar Sanids, Khoisades are taller, less infantile, faces larger, chins more pointed, heads larger. The convex upper lip is absent. Was more widespread across southern Africa until Bantu and European colonization almost wiped it out. Besides the Khoinoid proper, distinct relationships to East African types may exist. Sahanwi, Hadza, as well as North African types. Paleo-Saharan. The almost extinct Strandhopper type seems to be the ancestral form. The Nilo-Saharan languages are a prominent family of African languages spoken by some 50 through 60 million people, mainly in the upper parts of the Shari and Nile rivers, including historic Nubia, north of where the two tributaries of the Nile meet. The languages extend through 17 nations in the northern half of Africa, from Algeria to Benin in West Africa, from Libya to the Democratic Republic of the Congo in the century, and from Egypt to Tanzania and East Africa. And here is a visualization of the Nilo-Saharan languages and its subgroups and the people who speak them. And now just a quick description of the Nilotic people. Specialized African type native to the swamps and savannas of the Upper Nile region in South Sudan and adjacent countries. With their black skin, they belong to the darkest people on earth. Their thin bodies are the tallest in all indigenous human groups worldwide who are still alive. Their legs longer than any other known group. Only poverty and malnourishment keep individuals below their genetic height potential. Heads long, facial features coarse, with a rather wide nose, full lips, and kinky hair. Pronathism weak. Nilots seem to be a relatively old group that might have extended further east into Ethiopia during prehistoric periods. The most typical variety is the Dinka, native to swamp regions. A similar savanna counterpart is the Shuluku. South Nilotic shows less pronounced features, possibly due to admixture, and Chad, the admixed West Nilotic Shari type, is found. A very ancient variety still exists between Sudan and Ethiopia, the pre-Nilot. Since I believe Ham is haplogroup A and B, his descendants today range in many different skin tones, from jet black of the Nilots to the dark brown pygmies to the medium brown Ethiopians and the light brown Khoisan and the tanned skinned Copts. These are the faces of Ham. So, in summary and conclusion, Ham is haplogroup A and B. Haplogroup A and B is Paleo-African. Haplogroup A and B is seen highest among Nilo-Saharan, Pygmies, and Khoisans. The language of Ham would be Nilo-Saharan, Pygmy, and Khoisan. Other African populations with haplogroup A and B are Coptic, Beta Israel, Bantu, Nilotic, Sudanese, etc. And haplogroup A and B has also extended into parts of the Middle East, seen among peoples such as the Saudis and Yemenis, Palestinians, and various others. And we also see that haplogroups A and B is in the Mediterranean, such as the Cretans in Greece. And the Hamites in skin tone range from jet black to dark brown to medium brown and to light brown. In the future, I'll do a more in-depth video on each son of Ham and his grandsons. But for now, this is what I have to say about Ham and his haplogroup and his descendants. And this is a good basic understanding when it comes to Ham.